Okay, let's discuss running the Office 365 Health Readiness and Connectivity Checks. The Health Readiness and Connectivity Check tool can be found at portal.office.com/tools. There's also a link to this in the old Admin Center, but it's mysteriously absent from the new Admin Center. So if you don't want to memorize the URL, you'll have to go to the old Admin Center and click on Tools, or just search for it on the web. In order to run the readiness check, there are a couple of prerequisites. First, you must be running the 64-bit version of Windows 7 or later, and have the .NET 3.5 framework installed. The .NET framework is available for download from Microsoft, and if you're not aware, .NET is not one of those types of software where it's a minimum specification. So you can't have 4.0 and expect it to work. You'll need .NET 3.5 exactly. And this .NET version can be installed concurrently with other versions, so it's not like you have to downgrade. You'll also need at least Internet Explorer 9.0. I haven't successfully been able to run this on Chrome, but we'll take a look at that when we do the demo. You'll need to have Windows PowerShell version 2.0 installed, and generally speaking, if you have Windows 7 or later, you should have Windows PowerShell version 2.0 installed. If, however, you're not sure, you can launch PowerShell and run the command $psversiontable.psversion, and PowerShell will output the version that's running. A few notes about the readiness check. You'll need to allow pop-ups in your browser, and it's best to always allow pop-ups from Office.com. Also note that this only performs checks. It doesn't make any changes to your environment, so it's not intrusive. When run, you have the option of either running a quick or an advanced version of this tool. The advanced version will check your Active Directory environment, so you need to be logged in with a user that has read access to Active Directory. Now, it will prompt you for an Office 365 Support Assistant installation, but that's basically what the Health Readiness Connectivity Check tool is. And it will warn you that some of the information is being sent to Microsoft, but it's just usage information, nothing personally identifiable. So what exactly is being checked? Well, the network is checked to make sure that certain ports are open, and that there's TCP/IP connectivity for such things as Stun, PSOM, Identity Services, PowerShell, Skype, the Admin Center, and Exchange Online, and we'll cover some of these lesser-known ones later. Also, SharePoint Online and Lync, really Skype for Business, are checked, and as far as SharePoint, we're talking about file names, file extensions, OneDrive versions, and any prior conflicting programs. Domains are checked too, to make sure that your domain verification has been successful and DNS records have been added correctly, and also that you're pointing to the correct spam protection server for Exchange Online. It also checks users and groups in Active Directory to make sure that there's no issues and that all the users and groups are valid and have the correct properties. It will check your web browser settings too to make sure it's compatible with Office 365, and finally, there's an Exchange check that's run to inspect the on-premise environment to make sure that you can run in a hybrid environment if that's what you want. When you run the checks, there are 3 different outcomes for each of the tests. Passed means that the check was successful and there should be nothing to worry about. Warning means that there were non-optimal settings that could potentially be issues, but most likely nothing that will stop the service from being operational. An error means that there's something not configured correctly, and you'll most likely experience a service interruption of some kind. If the error is for a service that you plan to use, this is something you'll need to be corrected. There are some additional tools listed on the HRC page that you can run besides the readiness check. The first is the Exchange Best Practices Analyzer, and this will dig deeper into your Exchange environment and must be run from an Exchange server. Second is the Microsoft Connectivity Analyzer tool, and this is used to identify connectivity issues between email clients and Office 365. This is run as an on-premise tool and checks for ports and TCP/IP routing issues. There's also a Remote Connectivity Analyzer which does not require a download or installation, and it runs from an online server. This is a much easier tool to use as it does not require any installation. However, if the tool cannot reach the clients because of the connectivity issues you're trying to troubleshoot, you may need to download and install the on-premise version and use that instead. We'll be looking more at these 2 tools in Objective 6.3. There's also an Office 365 Performance Analyzer tool, which was formerly known as the Exchange Client Performance Analyzer. This identifies network performance issues between your company's client computers and Office 365. As such, this does not troubleshoot any connectivity issues, only issues where performance is slow or timeouts are occurring, and it's able to model usage and determine if there's any bandwidth issues or routing issues that are presenting the best possible performance. And there's also some self-guided deployment wizards which are available, and these are generally either step-by-step documentations or shortcuts to the setting screens in the Admin Center where you need to go to configure the services anyway. Okay, let's take a look at some of the health readiness checks in action. So in order to run the Health Readiness and Connectivity checks, or the HRC, we'll come into the Admin Center. Now, remember I said that it's not listed in the new Admin Center under the menu here, so we can go to the old Admin Center, and it'll remember this, so next time we come into Office 365, it's going to always bring us to the old Admin Center. So if we ever want to get back, we can click here to go to the new Admin Center, at least temporarily until the old Admin Center, I assume, will be gotten rid of once and for all eventually. So here we have some of our tools. We've got our HRC, we've got our on-premise Exchange BPA, which is the best practice analyzer. I'm giving you all the acronyms here. We've got the MCAT, which is the Microsoft Connectivity Analyzer tool. And then we've got the Exchange Client Performance Analyzer, as well as all the deployment wizards. But here we're more interested in the HRC, which is this first tool here. If we click on either details or prerequisites, it brings us to a page that pretty much reaffirms what we went over in the PowerPoint. Here we need Windows 7, we need .NET 3.5, we can get to it through portal.office, and here are the results of tests that we can run, past warning, and error. So let's go ahead and run this. And notice I'm in Chrome, it'll work. Now we can run the quick or we can run the advanced. I don't know if everything that is included in the quick is also included in the advanced, because they give you the option to run both. So let's just run them both so we don't miss anything. Now it says wait a moment while we get everything ready, and click the download file at the bottom of your browser. This instruction is getting a little bit ahead of itself, so we're going to stay with this, which is wait a moment while we get everything ready. There may be times where I may pause this recording just to save some time and in the sake of brevity, just for the sake of brevity. You can always monitor the clock down here if you're interested in knowing when time is skipped forward. Okay, so now it says you have to download an app to your computer to run the checks. Click Run Checks to get started. So, let me close this for now. We'll run checks. It downloads something called the HRC client, which is the Windows Support Assistant 3.5. We'll run that. Okay. So now it's waiting for the app to install. Okay, it asks us to run the HRC client v3.5. That's fine. And now it's running checks, and it says looking at how the organization is set up, this shouldn't take long. Now I've seen times when it gets stuck here for a while. If it takes longer than say 5 or 10 minutes, then usually that means there's a problem, but it could depend on how big your environment is. It won't stay like this forever. Eventually it'll come back with an error saying there was an error, that we've sent the error to Microsoft. Try again. But we'll see. I don't think it'll happen this time. Okay, so directory synchronization, checking Active Directory, domain functional levels, mail attributes, UPNs, proxy addresses, port 443 for PSOM, for stun, and should be just about finished. Now on the exam, this tool is used sort of as a tool to determine if your environment is correctly configured for Office 365. So if you get any questions that say, what tools should you run to determine whether or not your environment is ready or your Active Directory is ready, that you have all the right ports open prior to installation, this is going to be what you're going to select. So it tells us we've got 4 critical issues to fix, and it organizes them into categories here. So we've got users and groups, networks, domains, link, exchange. And I've actually seen this order change quite a few times, even just today. So it kind of just randomly determines what the order is going to be. There's no priority here at all. So let's look at domains here. So we've got a failure in domain. Well, what passed? Well, mail routing passed, spam protections passed, and the Outlook passed, which is auto discover settings. So that's good. Well, what failed? Well, it couldn't find records for SIP federations, and it couldn't find records for SIP, which makes sense. We haven't configured our SIP or SIP federation records yet for Skype for Business. We said we'd get to that in Objective 2, so that makes sense. For network, everything passed, which is all our ports. And firewall settings, we don't have any strict firewall settings here, so it's letting everything in and out by default. And then users and groups here. Object counts, we passed. Single forest environment and meet the requirements to deploy directory synchronization. So the Active Directory domain functional level supported directory sync. So we're good there. Exchange is good. I'm saving users and groups failed for last. You're good to go with Exchange. We can run cutover, staged, or hybrid migrations. And these are basically 3 different methods you can use to move your mailboxes to Exchange Online. And it depends on what version of Exchange you're running, whether or not all 3 of these are supported. With Exchange 2013, they are. So that's why it's telling us that we can support any of the 3 methods. And let's go to users and groups failed. And we get 2 failures here. We found attributes on some of your Active Directory users that have unsupported characters that are too long. You have to fix these attributes before you can use directory synchronization. You can see a list of these users by opening Windows Explorer and reviewing the files in the folder Office 365 logs, okay? And then it says some of your user accounts have name attributes that have to be fixed before you can. So these might be the same. These are very, very similar errors. Well, what are our options here? We can save this to an XML file, which you may have seen before, results.xml. We can run the checks again, or we can come over here to view all results, which really gives us just a different view of what we were just looking at. Although if we click on all results here, we get all the tests individually that were passed and the results as well. And if we click on issues, let's filter it just to the ones that have errors. We get this get help fixing this issue, which brings us to KB articles specifically for the errors that were thrown. And then we also have save results to XML. This is exactly the same as the link on the other page. Okay, so we got 2 domain errors and we got 2 user errors. We know about the domain errors and we're not worried about those, but we want to find out what user errors we saw, what user errors were received, what user errors there are. So let's jump into the log file. Now it saves a log file into Office 365 logs on the root C. I'm not sure of a way to change this. I don't really like that it's on root, but that's where it is. Another thing is this particular log file is very difficult to read. And I'm usually pretty good at finding what I need out of log files, but this does not give a lot of delineation between the checks that are run. So you just kind of have to know where they are, or you have to know what to search for. Now I know if I search for user attributes, we probably could find it. Not attribute limit, not attribute limit. Nope. So is it, let's just search for user. Let's go up this time. Okay, so I know we're here now. So we've got a couple of issues here. The first issue is with this Exchange Online-application account user. So the display name value is blank. Status is not ready. The recommendation is update blank value. Is valid is false, and the issue is blank value. Okay, so our display name is blank for this particular account, Exchange Online application account. Now, I know that that's an account that is put there by Exchange 2013, and I don't know if we need to actually fix this or not, because we're not going to import this as a user, but it may be required to have a valid display name when we go to set up a federated Exchange environment, which is just another way of saying a hybrid Exchange environment. And we'll worry about that when the time comes. And as a matter of fact, I think it gives you another issue for that particular account here. It doesn't like the attribute name SAM account name, $U51000 so and so and so. It says that that's an invalid format for a user account. Again, I'm not concerned with this right now, and it may not be something to worry about because we're not importing this as a user. And if it has to do with the Exchange Federation, we'll worry about it at that time. But then we've got these other 2 issues here, which is for a user named Badman Jones. And I named him Badman Jones because I know he's got a bad username. So first it says the SAM account name, it has an invalid format, and this is the value. As you can see, there's a space between B Jones and 1. And the same thing with the user principal name, that there is a space between B Jones and 1. So from this log, we're able to determine what the problem is. And if we go down to our Active Directory and we look at the account tab, we see that indeed there is a space in the UPN name up here, as well as in the SAM account name over here. Now, the issue with this is we'll fix this when we get to the next lesson, which is ID fix. But also note that ID fix will only fix the UPN name. So if I go back in, it's only going to fix this top one. It won't fix this bottom one, the SAM account name. And the reason why that is if we come over here, I have this document prepared. It says that if a user has an invalid SAM account name, but has a valid UPN, the user account is created in Office 365. But if the SAM account name and UPN are both invalid, then the on-premise Active Directory UPN must be updated. So what this is essentially saying is that the UPN is what matters. It doesn't matter if the SAM name is wrong or not. It matters if the UPN name is wrong. So ID fix only fixes the UPN name, which means that if we need the SAM account name to also be fixed, we're going to have to do that part manually. But we'll show you how to change the ID fix, how to change the UPN with ID fix in the next lesson. Okay. So that's basically it. We've got our 2 domain errors and we've got our 2 user errors, and we'll correct the user. We'll correct at least one of the user accounts. But if we were to run this again after we do the ID fix, it's still going to come back with multiple errors. But at least we know what they are, and we're deciding to ignore them for now. But if we wanted to, we could change the account names for Badman Jones, and we could go in and create a display name for the Exchange Online account. I, however, do not want to change the value of this SAM account name for Exchange 2013 in case it's necessary, which is why I'm not going to touch that right now. And that's pretty much it for the HRC. If you wanted to see link to the, if I go to portal.office.com/tools, it's going to bring me to the same place. But if I'm not authenticated, it will first ask me to authenticate to Office 365 with admin credentials, and then it will bring me to this page. So that's it. That's all there is for the health readiness check. Next up, running ID fix.